Welcome, class. Today's lesson is going to be a video of lessons 13, 14, and 15. We have already introduced lesson 13 and 14. We did that last week because we had some extra time, but I'm going to review it because these will be the ones you'll be doing homework on today and Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you have your book, open to page 58. And we're going to start with lesson 13. And keep in mind, I'm going to have just a little Juno doc for you to do to prove that you understand the lessons to me. I don't want to move too fast, but I think all of you are doing great with your math, so I don't think these will be any problems, but because this is a video, I do want to check your understanding. So let's look at lesson 58. And it's basically we're starting multiplication, and we can do repeat addition, and that is the same thing as multiplication. It saves us a little bit of time. We don't have to write 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. We can write 6 times 4, and the answer is the same. And you can add these up if you want to. 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. 18 plus 6 is 24. That takes a lot longer than just remembering 6 times 4 is 24. So that's repeat addition. It's the same as multiplication. And last time, I don't think anyone had any problems with understanding that. But let's look at the second concept in lesson 13, and that is adding and subtracting dollars and cents. So we're going to add and subtract dollars and cents. The thing you want to remember the most when you are adding and subtracting dollars and cents is to line up the decimal point. That is the key, and also to use your symbols. That decimal point has to be lined up right under. And they'll give you some of the problems horizontally, and you're going to have to write them vertically. And when you do, make sure that you line up that decimal point and put in your dollar symbol. If you happen to not line up your decimal point, and let's say you wrote it over to the side, that's going to be confusing. So the key to this is being precise in lining up that decimal point. Then also always bring down that decimal point to the same position. Bring down your dollar symbol. So the key to adding and subtracting dollars and cents is this decimal point. Always line it up very, very carefully. And sometimes what they're going to do is they're going to give you something like this. $5 plus $8.75 plus $10 plus 35 cents. So some of them will have decimal points and some of them won't, and you have to give them all decimal points in order to solve the problem. So let's start with $5. We put it there, and we know the decimal point goes to the right of that 5, and let's go ahead and put some zeros as our placeholders, because zeros hold our place to make everything nice and neat. Now the $8.75, that one works nicely because of our dollars and cents and our decimal. But $10 does not have a decimal point. But it's $10 with no cents, so we'll have to put the 10 over here, and then let's put a couple of placeholders. Again, look carefully. I'm lining up my decimal points. Now I have 35 cents. Which they did give us a decimal point here, but let's put it over here, keeping those decimal points lined up. And if you want to put a placeholder here, you can. And sometimes that helps. And then we just do regular addition, bringing down that decimal point, keeping everything nice and organized and lined up. So 5 and 5 is 10, bring down the 0, carry the 1. 7 and 3 is 10, plus one more, that's 11, carry the 1. 8 and 5 is 13, plus 1 more, that makes 14, carry the 1 and 1 is 2. I've got my decimal point. I need to also bring down my symbol. So it's important to put the symbols when we're talking about dollars and cents and to line up those decimal points. The key is that decimal point. Keep it lined up perfectly. So you have to write nice and neatly on those. Let's go ahead and go over to lesson 14. And it is missing numbers in subtraction. And we've also have already worked on these. We introduced them last time, but one thing that we didn't talk about is that we can read addition problems down or up, or subtraction problems. But this is kind of like the fact family idea. So 3 plus 4 equals 7. You can also read it up, but you have to switch the sign. 7 minus 4 equals 3. So we know 3 plus 4 equals 7. Then we can do 7 minus 4 equals 3. And then we can switch them, which gives us 4 plus 3 equals 7 if we read it down. If we read it up, 7 minus 4 equals 3. 7 minus 3 equals 4. So we can read these problems down and we can read them up. It helps us create our fact families, which is going to help us solve these problems. And what they're going to start doing is they're going to start leaving out one of our add-ins. And if you'll remember, we have some vocab here. An add-in plus an add-in equals a sum. When they give us these problems, they're going to leave out one of them. They might give us one add-in and leave one out and ask us to find that add-in. They might leave out the top add-in and ask us to find that one. They also may leave out the sum and ask us to find that. So there's strategies for each one. Using the reading up and reading down helps us solve these. We're going to practice a few here. So let's do 77 minus 23 equals X. So this one we can just read it down, 77 minus 23, and so we know that that is 54. So 77 minus 23 is 54. What if we read it up? We could read it up by 54 plus 23 equals 77. I hope that makes sense and it's not confusing, but that will help us as we're trying to solve these missing add-ins. So let's look at this one. F minus 15 is 24. So let's read it down. F minus 15 equals 24. If we read it up, we can do 24 plus 15 equals something. That makes it a little bit easier because then it's an addition problem, and that would be 39. So we would know X equals 39 because we can just add up. We can check it. 39 minus 15 is 24, and it checks out okay. So when we have the missing add-in at the top, it makes it, or the missing number at the top of a subtraction problem, we can make it into a missing add-in by reading it up. Let's look at page 64. Flip over to page 64 where we have the problem 45 minus S equals 21. And if we read it down, 45 minus X equals 21. If we read it up, 21 plus S equals 45. So I don't know which one is easier. When we have this missing number in the middle, it makes it a little harder. This is the hardest one, so just think about which way you would like to do it. You're basically going to switch these two, and you can do it as a subtraction problem. 45 minus 21 is 24, and we can check that. 21 plus 24 equals 45. So basically I was reading it down and up. Well, that I put it in a different order there, so that didn't work. So ignore that one. So when we have our missing add-in in the middle, we're going to swap it to solve. And they do that reading down. Look at the reading down on page 64. Reading down is 45 minus S is 21. Reading up is 21 plus S is 45. So you can decide, do you want to think of it as an addition problem or a subtraction problem? But either way, you have to do a subtraction problem to solve it. Either way, when you have your missing number as the second number. Now look over at the practice set, and I'm